Okay, let's talk about creating a table in MySQL. Now, I am using the World Sample Database, and what I want to do is I want to create a table that's going to hold the country code, the country name, the capital of the country, and the district that the capital is in. Now, this is something that we normally wouldn't do on a permanent basis because this is going to be a great example of keeping data in more than one place. And that's not something we normally want to do. However, in this case, we're doing it temporarily, and it's something that we're going to drop when we're done with this series of videos. So, remember design principles. We don't want to store data in more than once, single instance storage. But in this case, it's going to be a temporary table, and sometimes we'll create temporary tables and then drop them a little bit later. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to create a table that's going to hold information from the country table and the city table. So here's what I'm going to do. Using the world database, I'm going to describe the city table. And when I hit execute, this tells me the field name, the type of the field, and this is what I'm really interested about, whether nulls are allowed, and if there's a primary key. Okay, I'm going to go and create a new window over here as well, because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to describe the country table. And this will show me all the information from my country table. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to create a table using some data from both of these. So I'm going to start by creating the table structure. And in another video, we're actually going to insert the data. But we're just going to start by creating the table structure. So I'm going to open up another window here. And here's my command. It's going to be create table, and then we're going to give it the table name. So this table name is going to be, let's do country underscore capital. And then we're going to do an open parentheses here. And this is where we're going to start describing it. So we're going to create country capital, and I'm going to put the column name, and the first one I want is going to be the country code. And after the name, then you put what you want for that to hold, what type of data you want for that to hold. And in this case, what I'm going to do, and this is why I describe the tables, is I'm going to find here, I'm going to match what this has. Now, CHAR means it's going to be a character field. This is going to be an enumerated field, decimal, small integer, integer. You can find documentation online that's going to give you all of the available character types or all the available field types, and there are a bunch of them. So in this case, because I'm going to be copying data over, I just want to match that perfectly. So I'm going to do CHAR open parentheses, open parentheses, 3, closing parentheses. So what that means is it's going to be a character value, character field, and it's going to have room for 3 characters. I'm going to come back and add primary key later on. So that's going to be my first one, is going to be that. The next one I want is a country name. So I'm going to do country. It's going to be my next field, and that's going to be a character field as well. And if I come to here, I'm going to see my name is going to be length of 52. So if you're creating a table from an existing table, this makes sense to try to match what they've got, especially the length of them. If you are doing it from just making it up, creating something brand new, not based on an existing table, then you're going to want to think through what's the data that I'm going to store, how big is it going to be, make sure you get the length of all of your fields or columns right. Now the next one is going to be my capital, and my capital, that's going to come from my city table. And it's going to be the name of the city. And so that's going to be a character 35. So a character field, length of 35. And notice we're putting a comma between each one of these to identify the next, identify that there's another field coming. There we go. And then last but not least, I'm going to put in the district, which is going to be character 20. So I'm going to do district character 20. Now this is my last one, so I'm not going to close this, or whoops. Let me see if I can type this. So I'm not going to follow this with a comma. I am going to follow it with a closing parentheses. And that ends my field definition. Now, if you look back at these where we described fields, you're going to see some of these have nullable fields. So that's what this null is. A yes value means we can allow nulls. No means we can't. PRI identifies this as a primary key. You'll see the same thing over here where we have country code is an MUL key. This is a primary key. None of these things are allowed as that MUL. That's relation to the country table. None of these are allowed null values. Okay, so what we can do if we want to add like primary here, null values are allowed, is up here where we define the fields. That's where we set these. So I'm going to make this my primary key. Now, I don't want to make any of these nullable at the moment. None of them should be. However, we do have a previous video on this channel where you can, where we talk about creating tables, and it will show you how to make a table or create a field column, there we go, that you can allow null values in. And we might look at that a little bit later in one of these subsequent videos as well. All right, so this is going to create my table structure if I got everything right. I'm going to be official and end that with a semicolon and hit execute. And down here, notice it didn't give me any results, but down here in our output, it says create table. 0 rows affected, that's fine, but it says it worked correctly. Now I can verify this by coming in here and let's just describe, and it was country underscore capital and execute. And there we go, we have our table created. Okay, so that's how we can create a table using MySQL. Let me go back to this statement here so you can see it. It's to create table, give it the name, and then describe the table inside the parentheses. Set your column names, set what type of data they're going to hold, and then identify any special features of it afterwards. Okay, there we go. Hopefully this will give you an idea. Remember, we're doing this based on existing tables. In fact, we're going to populate it with data here in our next video from existing tables. So that's why we chose these particular values. If you're building your own database and you're creating something brand new, you're going to want to think through what are the columns that I'm going to need and what type of data is each one of those columns going to contain and how long do each of those columns need to be. And that's how you're going to come up with these values that define the columns or the fields in your table.